All right, so let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about something every single one of us does, probably 100 times a day, without even thinking about it. We're talking about judgment. We're going to peel back the layers and look at what's really going on inside our heads when we make a snap call about someone or something. So I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever had that moment? You make a split-second judgment about a coworker, a post you see online, whatever. And then, maybe hours later, you think, wait, where did that even come from? What was actually driving that reaction?
To get to the bottom of that, we have to start with what the source material calls the judgment habit. Because, let's be honest, most of us have a go-to story we tell ourselves about why people are so judgy. It's a pretty standard, surface-level take.
Okay, now this right here is the whole game. On the surface, when we see judgment, our brains immediately jump to conclusions like malice or arrogance or just a desperate need to be right. But the deeper truth is almost always something quieter, something more vulnerable. The research shows that what looks like pure malice is often just anxiety in disguise. What comes off as arrogance? Well, that's often rooted in deep uncertainty. And that person who absolutely has to be right all the time, it's usually a shield for some profound inner fragility. So you can see, we have to go deeper. We've got to look right under the surface to really get what's happening here. And this quote just nails it. Let's just let that sit for a minute. Judgment is rarely born from malice. Instead, it is born from anxiety. Wow. Thinking about it that way can completely change how you see this behavior, right? It's not so much an attack as it is a defense. So, if it's a defense, what's it defending us from? Well, at its very core, judgment is a coping mechanism. It's the tool our brain instinctively reaches for when it's trying to handle really uncomfortable feelings. You know, that squirmy feeling of anxiety, the confusion of uncertainty, or that shaky sense of insecurity.
And what pulls the trigger? What makes us reach for that tool? Well, the research points to 4 big drivers. First, it's our nervous system's deep, primal craving for control. Second, it's a real intolerance for ambiguity. Our brains hate gray areas. Third, it can be a sign of a pretty fragile relationship with ourselves. And fourth, sometimes it's as simple as general emotional discomfort. We just feel bad and we want to feel better, fast.
And here's why it becomes such a hard habit to break. In that split second, it works. Judging something or someone gives us this immediate little hit of psychological relief. It calms those uncomfortable feelings. And that, right there, creates a super powerful, almost addictive reward loop in our brain. So what exactly is this reward we're chasing? Well, the sources tell us that judgment pays out in 3 powerful but, and this is the key, ultimately illusory rewards. These rewards are the illusion of control, the illusion of superiority, and the illusion of safety. Did you catch the word they all have in common? Illusion. They feel incredibly real in the moment, but they're not built to last. They're like a mirage. So first step, the illusion of control. Our nervous system just can't stand chaos. It wants order. So judgment acts like a quick and dirty filing system for reality. It takes this messy, complex, unpredictable world and immediately sorts it into neat little folders. Good, bad, right, wrong, safe, unsafe. It's not accurate, but for a second, it feels orderly. Next up, the illusion of superiority. This one is all about protecting our ego. When we're feeling a little small or insecure, judging someone else gives us this quick jolt of self-validation. By deciding they're wrong, we automatically get to feel like we're right. And that can feel pretty good when our self-esteem is shaky. And finally, there's the illusion of safety. You know, the world is filled with nuance and complexity. And frankly, that can feel really threatening. Judgment is like a sword that just cuts through all that mess. It creates these simple good versus evil stories that make the world feel way more stable, definitive, and a whole lot less scary. But, and you knew this was coming, relying on these illusions to get through the day is not a free ride. There is always a hidden cost. I love how the source material puts this. It calls these illusions an emotional shield. It's the perfect metaphor. A shield can definitely protect you, but it also separates you from the world. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you isolated. And that always comes at a price. So what is that price? Well, it's a slow chipping away at some of our best human qualities. That shield makes our thinking more and more rigid. It disconnects us from empathy and from curiosity. And maybe the most dangerous one of all, it changes how we listen. We stop listening to actually learn something new, and we start listening only for evidence that confirms the judgment we've already made.
And you can see how this becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's a full-blown addiction loop. We feel uncomfortable, we judge to get that quick relief, and then we actively look for information that proves our judgment right, just to keep that good feeling going. We get trapped inside our own story.
So, that brings us to the most important question of all. If we're stuck in this loop, how do we get out? How in the world do we break it?
The single most powerful tool the sources give us is a total reframing of the problem. What if we stopped looking at judgment as a moral failure or even as a conscious choice? What if, instead, we started seeing it for what it so often is? A nervous system reflex, like a knee-jerk reaction when a doctor taps your knee. It's just a bodily response to feeling unsafe or uncomfortable.
And that leaves us with a really powerful, kind of hopeful question. If judgment isn't some deep character flaw, but just an automatic reflex, does that give us a little bit of power back? Does it create just enough space between the feeling and the reaction for us to notice it happening? And in that tiny moment, can we choose a different path? A path away from certainty and maybe toward curiosity. And that right there is the challenge and the opportunity that this whole idea leaves us with.